All right. Hey, nerds. Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025, and today we are live, and we will be taking your questions live. I know that we had one feed up, and that one sort of failed on us. We apologize for that one, but we're live now, so let's do it. Let's see if this works. All right, I like the idea. I like that we can play that live for you all. So with me here is Mike. Mike will be monitoring the chat to give us any of your questions. So make sure any questions that you all have, you put them in the chat. You can shout Mike out. He'll help you out. He will get those to me, and I will try and answer today as many as we can. I don't know how long we'll go. We'll go as long as we can, but I do have to harvest some basil this morning. So once it dries off a little bit, if you harvest it when it's too wet, it's like it does not keep very well. So I try and wait till that sun comes up and kind of knocks some of that moisture off, and then we can harvest it. It's like a delicate balance between harvesting too early and harvesting too late when it's too hot, and harvesting too early when it's too wet. So basil's good like that. So anyway, it's welcome to the 200th episode. This is very cool. We've done, some people are probably like, I don't know, is that a big deal? I don't know either. I actually don't know if it's a big deal, but it was a lot of work to get to this point. Mike and I, Michelle, we've all worked really hard on getting this show kind of just up and running and continuing, and everything that goes into it. It takes I think it takes approximately 8 or 9 man hours to get a 20-minute show every day. So it's it's a lot more than you would think. So it's had a huge response, and I don't know how many people are in the chat right now, but it seems like a lot. And we just really appreciate you all. This has been a lot of fun. It's been very challenging for me, and challenged things that I thought about gardening. It's challenged my own endurance in terms of educational content. It's also challenging because it's like a second job on top of farming. So it's all the things, but it's so much fun. And honestly, I'm excited to do these live things. I'd love to do more, conversational sort of stuff like this in the future. Some of my favorite sort of daily shows are just people talking. And I'd love to also add that at some point where it's just a handful of people, farmers, kind of talking about farming and other stuff. And I always think those are some of my favorite. And we used to actually do a lot of live stuff with my buddy Josh Satin used to do Growers Live. So we would do, he would bring in either myself or another grower from all over the place, and he would do live sort of events like this where you could ask them questions. And it'd be cool to kind of bring something like that back. We created a lot of cool live content like that, and that was super fun. And honestly, it's a cool way to get to interact with you all in a way that I obviously don't on the sort of pre-recorded episodes. But all right, so like I said, put the any questions you all have, gardening questions or whatever, in the chat, and when we and any of the super chats will move to the top just as appreciation for your donation. But put those in the chat, and then Mike will send those to me. And then, but first I'm going to go ahead and knock out our ad read. We know it's peak season, you're busy, but the messages you send now are what drive renewals later. That's why Farmhand is offering free instant access to their farmer-built newsletter builder. No demos, no setup fees, just drop your logo, upload your list, and start sending farm-branded emails that boost sales, engage members, and save you hours each week. Get free access to farmhand.partners/no-till. That's farmhand.partners/no-till. I think I said to and not at, but I think you get the picture. Shouts to Farmhand. They're a really great sponsor. Shouts to anybody that's sponsored this work, because a lot of them, Farmhand, Rimmel, a lot of these guys, they just are you do your thing, and we just really appreciate it. And they support us. So we really appreciate when you all support them back. And again, get your questions into the chat. And I think that Mike just sent me one or two. Let's see what we got here. All right. So Little Row Farms, can you share how you document your season from planting to harvesting? Notebook or spreadsheet? If a notebook, how do you organize it chronologically through the season or by different crops? I love this question because we've actually done it a few different ways. We used to do sort of notebook style. And that was fine to an extent, but the problem with notebook style we would have like all of our field plantings, all of our amendments, all that stuff. It would be under different tabs. And the trouble with that, or the challenge with it, is when you start doing a lot, right? Like when you start doing like, I don't know, an acre of vegetables and you're doing like 50, 70 different plantings in a year or whatever, like it's a lot to keep up with. So searching it can be, quite a challenge. And so we did it that way for a while. And I actually like that. I like that organizationally because it's easy for me to just like sit down and write the things that I did, or just go to the notebook in the wash pack station or whatever and just write it down. It's easier for me to keep up with, but harder for me to sort of search through. And so we used to, and that wouldn't really be a big deal, I guess, except for organic certification. So like when our certifier would come and be like, hey, what did you, when did you plant what, and what amendments did you use? It was always like such an ordeal to figure out when stuff was planted where. Now, I'm not always the most organized person, so it's possible that somebody with a notebook could have done a better job. But then we moved to Cog Pro, and Cog Pro was, it's a very, very basic system. It looks like it was built in the 90s, which shouts to that. But it is a good one for just keeping track of your organic certification. So I think that's like Cog Pro. You can look it up. In terms of organic certification, that was just the easiest one we found. There are others like Tend and that sort of stuff. You can also just build your spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are worth learning how to do. One, because there's a lot of creativity there. There's a lot of art in a spreadsheet that can be, really, like, it can be really fun to figure out what all you can keep track of and all the different ways you can do it. And I've gotten a little better with spreadsheets over the years, and it wasn't always my thing. But like, I don't know, once you figure out how to make it fun, then it makes it a little easier to kind of, and also just like you start to see the value in it. So yeah, I think, I think part of your question, how do you organize it? I think going through using the organics certification standards is actually good, even if you're not, certifying organically, because it keeps track of what you amended when, your planting dates, your harvests, all that stuff. Like if all that's plugged in there, if down the road you realize, oh, it would be really helpful to be certified organic, like boom, you will have all that information that you need. And yeah, I mean, I think that I don't know. I think that kind of covers it. Those programs, I mean, there's a bunch of those programs like Tend and I'm forgetting about some of them off the top of my head, but that will keep track of like all your planting, all your harvest, all that stuff that you just have to plug it in on your phone. Google Sheets is great, and that's also something you can share with your crew or your friends or whatever, and you can just like, so that people can kind of keep track of it. Or so like if you have a crew of employees, they can just get on there and plug in what they did that day, or look at the harvest list or whatever it is from the day. So that's like super helpful. Anyway, yeah, thanks. That's a great question. Let's see. We got another one here from Joanne Fisher. I see you grow sunflowers amongst your corn and etc. I have been reading that the sunflowers steal, I'm assuming, nutritional benefits from other plants. Do you see that? So maybe in some context, like there's a few different ways of looking at like how plants sort of interact in terms of like sharing nutrients or borrowing nutrients. And with sunflowers, they have kind of a deep taproot, but they also have like a lot of surface roots. So you can kind of, when you're interplanting, one of the things I write about in the book, in the Living Soil Handbook, is like root complementarity. So if you're planting sunflowers around plants that are like maybe medium depth rooted or really deep rooted, it's not as significant of a they're not sharing quite as many nutrients. But anytime you're interplanting, you do need to plan for slightly higher nutrient loads. Like it's just, that's interplanting works really well in deep compost mulch systems because there's so many nutrients in a deep compost mulch system that it is good to have enough plants in there to maximize that nutrition so that you're not also polluting. Like it's trying to utilize more of that nutrition so you're not losing nitrogen and those sorts of things. But no, I mean, sunflowers no more than any other crop. I mean, if your nutrients and your soil quality and your the compaction and all those things are not addressed, like no crop's going to do well with any other crop. And I don't see in interplanting a lot of combativeness. Like I don't see a crop that technically, like people talk about like how fennel's one that you don't really want to plant with other ones, and I can see that. But I think as long as you have your nutrition pretty high and pretty well done, like, you know, all your drainage and all those things, and you're giving everything enough space, like you shouldn't run into that sort of antagonism. But yeah, it can happen. I think giving everything space, especially when you're just starting out with sort of inner plants, helps. Like you'll see, maybe it's tomorrow or the next day, I forget. I have a plan to talk a little bit more about like the Milpa system and about heavy feeders. So be on the lookout for that. I think that I can't remember if I have that planned for Friday or Thursday, but be on the lookout for that on the daily, because we will talk a little bit more about that. Let's see. Okay. Gail Bills, hi from Lexington, Kentucky. All right, go Cats. Any reflections on the book Frostbite about refrigeration? That is a really cool book. That is definitely one I recommend. It is, I mean, it's just so amazing how far along the technology has come, and how, how many nuances there are to preserving, different foods. And I think I didn't make it all the way through the book yet. I kind of forgot about it, actually, now that you bring it up, because I made it through the refrigeration stuff. I've made it through the first 3 chapters or 4 chapters, but I don't remember why I set it down. But yeah, I plan to get back to that one, because it's a really good. There's a lot of great insight in there, and it's really well written. A lot of really good stories, just stuff you don't think about too, in terms of like people working in refrigeration. I think there was one story too, just about there's this sort of myth that's been busted but then re-mythed again, or whatever, that like that you don't catch a cold from the cold, but like actually there's this whole thing in that book about how that is actually a thing, that you can catch a cold from being in the cold, and people that work in like deep refrigeration often have this whole issue with like I don't know, being in those cold temperatures. It's like a thing and I forget what they called it, but anyway, yeah, it's a great book. It's high recommendation from the parts that I've read. But yeah, it's one I need to pick back up, because for whatever reason I put it down. I get distracted pretty easy, if you haven't guessed that about my personality. Let's see. Deborah Savory said, "Have you saved your grass clippings yet?" I saved them. I just did that yesterday, actually. I've been making, I really like grass clippings. Like one thing I've been doing, sorry, that's like 4 different statements before I start. But one thing I've been doing with the grass clippings is like, I will constantly be piling our compost stuff, food scraps, scraps from harvest, any, spent vegetables, whatever. We'll start putting that in a pile. And then I'll have a day where I go and mow a bunch of pathways, and I'll take all that pathway mulch and I'll put that in the compost pile, and then I'll mix it together. I'll get it really wet and I'll cover it. And then that kind of has been kickstarting our compost piles lately. So yeah, I was just doing a little bit of that yesterday. The grass clippings out of the living pathways is really cool. It takes a lot of work. I'm not sure, if you really broke it down efficiency wise, that it's necessarily worth it. But especially when you run into like the complications with weeds and stuff, living pathways, they're a whole thing. But but yeah, I love that. I mean, having that access to this like rich, green material to throw into your compost piles and kind of just get them kickstarted, it's really great. And I've also been experimenting more lately. I've had some decent luck just in terms of like the way it smells and the way that the plants react to it, with basically doing like an overnight extract with compost, like a compost extract. And I'll leave that overnight with fresh grass clippings, and basically just like let that hang out overnight, just, I don't know, maybe like 12, 15 hours, give it a really good stir, and then using that as an amendment. And I guess it's kind of in the vein of like the, what's the Jadam microorganism solution, that one, where they use a like baked potato. But I just feel like you have these microbes that really, really kickstart well off of fresh grass clipping. So I've been kind of playing with that. And I mean, the plants seem to react well to it. So I don't know. I mean, there's no science there. That's just observational. But yeah, that's kind of been one I've been playing around with. So yeah, thanks, Deborah. Abby Dosian Chulak too. What do you do to protect from mosquitoes and other bloodsuckers in the field? Any chemical-free or chem light options work for you? Let's see. I don't have a lot, for whatever reason. Maybe it's just the amount of garlic I eat, but I don't have a ton of issues with bugs in the fields. There's one in terms of like, mosquitoes or anything like that. Of course I get bit occasionally, but, and have an itchy spot, but it's not, mostly the biggest issues I have, are with what we call no-see-ums. I don't know if you all have those there, but we don't have them on our farm, but we have them around. And in fact, we have them up at the soccer field. So in the middle of the summer, when we were doing the soccer clinics, we had these like no-see-ums, and then, and they are brutal that you can't, no-see-ums, like you can't really see them. They're really small, but they will eat you up. But Hannah has like a tea tree oil bug spray that she uses, and it's like this weird little oily bug spray. I don't know the name of it, but those tea tree oil sprays usually work pretty well for me if I'm having an issue. But yeah, we don't have we have mosquito issues here, obviously, but also in terms of mosquitoes, we also have like tons of dragonflies. We have hummingbirds. We have all sorts of, we have bat. I saw a huge bunch of bats the other day, which was actually the first time I'd seen them. I hadn't been seeing bats a lot lately. They've been suffering from like white nose and stuff, so we just haven't been seeing them as much. But I saw a bunch of those. So I think our mosquito populations are generally lower than maybe just like a place that isn't managed for its ecology. Again, that's anecdotal, but that's kind of been my observation. It hasn't been a huge problem. But good question. It's certainly something that people talk about a lot. Let's see. Corrid Ravenscroft says, you mentioned more than a couple times that you deal with periodic back issues. Any tips for a new market gardener with sciatica and Ehlers-Danlos? I'm not sure if I know how to pronounce that one, but hypermobility disorder. Take a quick water break real quick. So I think every time I bring up the chiropractor, I get a little bit of pushback from people who, talk about like it's not always the most like scientifically proven practice. I have a great chiropractor who gives me stretches to do, and who isn't doing like popping, cracking chiropractic, but is doing like really thoughtful chiropractic care. And that has been really helpful. And it's like a massage, right? Like they're just kind of massaging the spinal part of your spine, your neck, those sorts of things. It's not like they're banging it. They're not doing anything crazy. And that has been super helpful for me. Just, I can go in with a major back issue and come out and be fine for like ever until I do something stupid. That is, I'm not going to say it's going to work for everybody because it does depend it's very contextual. It depends heavily on your chiropractor. But that's been helpful to me, and especially the stretches and the exercises that they give me to help at home. Also, like a lot of the mistakes or a lot of the things that you can do to your back have to do with sitting and like not stretching, improper positioning, all those things. And also finding the things like if you're dealing with heavy sciatica and stuff, it's finding the things that are exacerbating that and trying to avoid those and figuring out how to work those out of your systems. And for me, like I work a lot from my knees. I don't work a lot standing up. And that's been, something I've had to adapt to, but works really well for me now. It's a little slower in some cases, and sometimes getting up and down, gets increasingly difficult. Like I said, I kind of have been planting more trees and that sort of stuff, so I can start picking up here instead of like down on the ground. Those things, like it's tough, man. It is really tough when when your back is just drawing all the energy and all the pain. It's really distracting. And I still go through it. And sometimes like this morning I had neck pain and it was giving me a little bit of a headache. So that was that's just kind of like how it goes when you're working really hard on your body. But yeah, I think even it doesn't have to be a chiropractor. You could go to a masseuse, you could find a physical therapist. I think those things are worth the investment. And I've had great experiences with mine. You could try one, see if it, helps, or if you feel like they are speaking to what you need. And then if not, find somebody else. But like, I think those things are really helpful. I don't know. That's kind of where I land on that. That's been what I've done and what Hannah's done. And we felt good about it. Let's see. MKN said, I've also heard that sunflowers are allelopathic. True. Yeah, they can be. Same with, Ryan, that sort of stuff. I haven't had any issues with sunflowers. No more than like, any other crop necessarily. Like I said, once you get that, fertility right, then interplanting them hasn't been an issue. But if you wanted to use them like as a straight cover crop and you were willing to work them into the soil, I think that would be helpful. They do, reduce, in theory, allelopathic, just meaning they put out a chemical through their roots that's going to reduce germination. They will help reduce germination in, weeds and that sort of stuff is my understanding, although I'm not currently looking at that research, but that was my understanding. But yeah, it's a good question. Let's see. Paul Howell wrote, was going to ask this on Patreon, but does a slope affect crop rotation? In my instance, I garden on a slope and grew nightshades at the top of the garden. Is there a risk from rotating downhill? I mean, not that I could think of. It's an interesting question. Nothing I can think of. Those roots are going to travel a little bit downhill. I guess maybe it would depend on how close your beds are, but I don't think so. I mean, even crop rotation, as long as your beds are fairly healthy, like crop rotation is not going to be a significant deal. Your one risk might be is that diseases are going to travel downhill with gravity. So like if let's say you're having like, I'm just kind of thinking of this on the top of my head, but like, let's say at the top of the field, you have cucurbits and they end up getting infected with downy mildew or something like that, that I could see that going downhill a little bit depending on which way the wind is blowing and that sort of stuff. But by and large, no, I don't see any major issues with that. Buds, blossoms, and bouquets. Thoughts on hiring a farm consultant? I think I don't have any issue with hiring a farm consultant. It's going to just be harder finding them. I think retiring farmers and maybe farmers in between jobs or whatever, or like, or who are in between farms or building their farm and wanting to take a year to like build up their farm while they need money. That is an awesome opportunity for people. It's expensive, like it's a huge investment, but they could save you a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of things that I'll see how somebody set up a farm and my brain just starts firing on things that I wish I would have been able to tell them. Setting up a floodplain or, not addressing drainage or not really thinking about how far away it is from their house or their pack shed or any of those things. Like there's lots of little details like that you learn from being in this business for, I don't know, over a decade and a half now. And that, would be good to impart on people. I don't do it because I just don't have time. I think that, there are plenty of people that should be and could be doing it. It'd be good to sort of have that be something that is more organized. Like I'd love for no-till growers to be able to organize farm consultations for people, but our capacity is still pretty low. We're doing great. Like our business has improved, but it's one of those things that it needs more organization so people can actually find a good consultant that knows their context, that understands their growing area. And part of that may just be going to the farmer's market and being like, hey, would you come over for a day and just, look at my plan, look at my gardens and see what I may be missing. But yeah, I don't do it just because one, I don't have time. And two, for me, it's a bit of a paywall, right? Like I want my work to be out there in the open for everybody to be able to see so that you all can learn from it. And it's just harder to do that necessarily with consults. We've talked about like maybe doing on-air consults at some point, so everybody can just kind of listen in. We've talked about, going and filming consultations, but again, capacity is our limiting factor really. And as we can hire more people in the future, then that will improve. So we can do more things. It's a good question. I love it. Let's see. Nobita asks how to deal with caterpillars that bite fruits or use pesticides or use flowers too. Which one is more effective? Okay, so caterpillars, it depends on the caterpillar. There's times when with your like brassicas and that sort of stuff, obviously all of this starts in the soil. Even then you're going to occasionally have issues. Things are out of balance for whatever reason. Yes, flowers will help. They'll bring in a lot of the, beneficial insects. The other day I saw, a caterpillar that had been parasitized by a cabbage worm that had been parasitized. And I hadn't seen that before. It was really kind of cool to see that. Just you don't catch it because they look really dry and shriveled. But so Flowers always help. Birds help. I see birds, like we have these little finches. I'll see them in the brassicas all the time, just eating up. Wasps, eating caterpillars. All of those things help. In an emergency, I don't really have a huge issue with Bacillus thuringiensis. Just make sure that you're getting the right BT. You can call like Seven Springs and just ask them like, hey, I'm having this issue. Is this right? And then you can use it minimally if you have to. And then slowly over time, start working on your ecology. Yeah, and things like armyworms, it's same sort of story. With something like tobacco hornworm, that's one that you're more going to deal with. Like, that is one that definitely benefits from those parasitoid wasps that you can bring in with things like Sweet Alyssum. So that having some of those flowers around that bring in buckwheat, Sweet Alyssum, all those little flowers, a lot of those billifers like dill is a good one. Cilantro brings in a lot of pollinators and beneficials. Those sorts of flowers, just having them around, especially like within, I don't know, let's say arbitrarily 15, 20 feet of your crops, it makes a difference. And yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of it. That's our approach really. And then having landing places for birds, I think is one that I'm trying to explore more, just having larger shrubs, larger, trees, birdhouses, those sorts of things. Homesteading DIY asks, I have an ant infestation. How do you deal with this? We've done a couple episodes on ants. We have an ant infestation around our farm, but they're like the most innocent, obnoxious ants. They just stink. And they're not really bothering us too much. There's a couple different things you can do. Like, if it's like a fire ant situation, we've talked about, carefully dumping like boiling water on the mound, stirring it up, just keeping them from being happy in that place, just making sure to keep your distance. I've also used boron and a borax / like white sugar mix with water, and you just mix that together. They'll eat that. They'll take it back to the queen, and then that kind of at least reduces their numbers a little bit. It won't. I mean, the problem is like, we try and live in this like bug-free world that it just doesn't really exist. So it's really, I mean, you can keep things in check, but a lot of times they're just going to be around. So yeah. And let's see. Speaking of that, S. Hoback asks, borax is recommended by my local extension to add boron. AI search says it kills microorganisms. Is this conventional farming thought or no-till rhizosphere friendly? No, I mean, borax is like generally recommended by agronomists and stuff if you use it. Like the thing with boron is like it is 100%. Like you hear people say, a little, like use a very little bit. This is one of those nutrients that you really, really do have to use a small amount. But as far as I know, I mean, no, I haven't. This is something that's often recommended by agronomists. And somebody can feel free to correct me there, but that's my understanding. That it's boron is one of those things that is really mobile, and it's really it doesn't stay in the soil that easily. That it doesn't stay there for that long. So anyway, it's one of those things that you kind of have to add light amounts and with some relative frequency, like once a year or something, just depending on what the soil tests say. But yeah, like whereas other nutrients you can add kind of once and then you're good to go for pretty much the rest of time. But yeah, I mean, yes, in large numbers it will kill microorganisms almost certainly, but in small numbers, I don't see that as big of an issue. I just said ish. That's fun. Let's see. Where were we? Jamie Martin. What do you use to get rid of powdery mildew and tomato diseases? It has been awful in central Alabama. No rain, hot, and humidity. Yeah, it's tough. I'm assuming you're doing it in the field and that, you're living in a really difficult place to grow a crop like that in a way, because the humidity, because of the heat, if you're planting them too close, that will, lead to those diseases. The soil health helps, but you're going to have to try and find a few different crops that handle that humidity well. There may be find some breeders in the area if you can, or in the South. The one that we'll use when we want a crop that's like a little bit more adapted to our area, like we just ordered some beans from them for our milpa garden, and that is Southern Exposure. So Southern Exposure Seed Exchange, they do a good job of just having seeds that are relatively well adapted to hot, humid climates because they're over there in Virginia. But yeah, if there's a seed supplier in Virginia that, or in Alabama that has, any sort of, sells seeds, and they have any sort of tomatoes that maybe, resistant to those, late blight, early blight, any of those diseases. That may be where to look. I'm gonna take a quick water break again. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, growing tomatoes in the field is always going to be a challenge. It just is. It's like that's the complicated nature of a leafy plant like that. But giving them more space in between plants will also help quite a bit. And then maybe even pruning them a little bit. And I know that's tough in the field, or the other thing is you can move them inside of a tunnel, which will reduce a lot of those issues. Indica Dogo asks, "Hey, Farmer Jesse, do you think keeping chickens on plots with bindweed is a good strategy for getting rid of it? We tarped a bindweed area all season, but it's coming back and spreading out now. I think it's maybe a good system for, keeping it in check a little bit. I don't know. I've never done that. Like, we don't have bindweed issues here. Not that it doesn't exist in Kentucky. It just hasn't been a problem on our farm. But it does tend to prefer a little bit drier climate, I think, in general. But I don't know. I mean, if it's working, that's helpful. Like, anytime you can get it, like, those leaves are solar panels. So those solar panels are sending energy down into the root, which is where all the energy is being trapped. So if you can keep those solar panels knocked back, even just mowing it constantly, that will help. But you're still going to need to get rid of those roots because it's going to hold a lot of that energy for a long time. Let's see. Kevin McGrath asks, 3 years ago, our potato beetles all exploded. No idea why. No spray. Haven't seen any since. Ever heard of this happening before? Want to spread the good news, but I don't know what did it right. That can happen. Like, we've had, sometimes maybe it's the way you're managing your soil. Maybe it's the potatoes that you're using or growing. Maybe it's the time of year that you're planting. I think a lot of times when your potatoes are going into like cool, spring wet, cold soil coming out of the wintertime. A lot of times people are trying to plant them in March here in Kentucky, and they're just growing slow. They're kind of temperamental. Like, potatoes like it warmer. So I think that can lead to some potato beetle damage. How you're hilling them up, just soil nutrition. Like I said, my biggest realization with potatoes was that we would tarp the soil to kind of warm it up. We would pull it back, dig our furrows, put our potatoes in, cover that with compost, and then pour the Jadon microorganism solution right over the compost right onto the potatoes, and then recover those potatoes. And have not seen potato beetles except for this past year when we were trying different things since then. And couldn't tell you and that also, when we had those potato beetles, when I was talking earlier about that, the compost mix that I was making, that's actually what I used on those potatoes. I just kind of dribble it right over top of the leaves, and then the potato beetles went away. And I don't want to say that because I'm like, oh, people are going to think that's like a solution to potato beetles, but that helped. So maybe that's like a thing that, you could try in those situations if you do have infestations. But yeah, if you don't know what you changed, I mean, maybe take note of the things you changed. That's partially why it's helpful to keep notes. But take notes of the things you changed, and that way you can kind of be like, oh, maybe that was the difference between this year and that year's. I planted them later, or I used this variety instead, or the year before I had cover crop in there, or whatever it may be. Delights of the Earth asks, we have a major issue with rabbits. We heard blood meal can scare them off. Any other tips? I mean, my biggest thing with, rabbits, that sort of stuff is exclusion helps, right? Like, if you can get some sort of fencing around it that excludes them, that's certainly helpful. We had a dog that pretty much kept them out. Like, we just had a Great Pyrenees in our garden. I know that's not going to work for everybody, but that kept them out. And also hawk habitat, any sort of large predatory birds, that certainly helps. We had this really amazing situation not that long ago where we had domestic rabbits that somebody had just let go, I guess. and there were all these domestic rabbits, and they were kind of like just running around the neighborhood. And I have no idea why, but nothing, not dogs, not like neighborhood dogs, not coyotes, not hawks, nothing would get these domestic. I think we were all just like every species in the area, including humans, were all just dumbfounded that there were these like giant, rabbits running around. But they would come into the garden and they would wreak a little havoc. But it was never a huge deal. But I know it can be. I mean, in certain, especially drier areas where all of your moisture is concentrated on just your bed tops, like you all end up having way bigger issues with, predators like that or pests like that than we do, because there's so much moisture here in Kentucky that like everything is green. So only in droughts do we really see significant issues with like deer and rabbits and that sort of stuff, just because we're the only place that there's water. So like that, a little bit of exclusion through the summer will keep the deer out. But as soon as that, it gets dry out and they don't have moisture in the plants that they're eating, they'll come to the garden. So yeah, that's I don't know. There's no good solution. I mean, I think it's just a mixture of things. I don't know that adding things like blood meal is necessarily going to help. You may get rid of the rabbits, but you may attract in some raccoons. So I would hesitate on that one. I would just try some of the other more sort of straightforward stuff first and see how that gets you, and then go from there. Hillbilly time. Is that what? Hillby time. Hillby time. Not hillbilly. Sorry, Hillby. Hillby time. Do you struggle with blister beetles and how do you get rid of them? I had blister beetles one time and they decimated our chard in our cat. I think it was a cat tunnel. And then I've just never had them since. And I have no idea why. I don't know. I don't know a lot about them, like what they prefer nutritionally. Generally, it's just, your plant is stressed for some reason. And that's what bugs do, is they go after the stressed out plants. They go after the plants that are sick and dying, and they want to just go ahead and, those are the easiest for them to consume. So yeah, that's where they go. Managing your fertility, exclusion too, like any sort of insect netting. I know it's not ideal, but that's a simple approach. Is just if you have a crop that they tend to prefer, like Swiss chard or beets or whatever, then maybe adding some sort of insect netting would be the approach. Let's see. Let's keep rolling. Wow, we've already gone 40 minutes, Mike. Look at us. Julie Rainey asks, what benefits do you hope TEF will have? Too many. I hope TEF saves the world. I love TEF right now. It's maybe too ambitious, but I love it. I'm fascinated by it because it, I know it's used as a food crop in some cultures, and I think that's super cool. I think it's really pretty. It's fast growing. It's relatively low lying. And I've started mowing some of it to see how I can manage it with a mower. I started putting some under, maybe I'll just show that tomorrow too, putting it some under some okra and some sunflowers, just to kind of like look at it and see what it does. Maybe it could work in living pathways where you don't necessarily just want like anything. And it's just super pretty. I was telling Mike yesterday, I was like, I just want to graze it. Like I know I'm not a ruminant, but like my ruminant animal spirit is just looks at it and wants to eat it. So it's beautiful. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that it's going to be like a great cover crop in terms of like providing a mulch, but holding stuff in place. Maybe it's an alternative to buckwheat. I don't know how hard it's going to be to kill it with like tarps or like, no tillage or whatever. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm having fun playing with it, certainly. So I'm going to keep you all updated on that. Brad asks, what is the farthest distance you think would be practical to travel to deliver produce to either a farmer's market or wherever else you're selling? There has to be an equation there, but generally, like, you want to keep your markets as close to your house as you can, as your farm as you can. Travel it's just time. It's just waste, right? So like if you can figure out a way to make the majority of your sales close to home, that's ideal. if you can, like if you never have to leave the farm, that's the highest profitability, right? Like you're not having to pack stuff into a van. You're not having to go somewhere, unload the van or truck, set it up, sell the food, then repack it into the van. Like that is all waste, right? If you can just have people come and get it out of your farm store or get it out of, pick up the CSA on the farm or pick up the CSA at a few different drop spots or that sort of stuff. That is where the highest profitability is going to be in that sense. But farmers markets can be highly profitable though too. So if you have a way that you can make, I don't know, $2,000 or $3,000 at a farmer's market that's an hour away or 40 minutes away, I think you can make that work. It's just figuring out, doing the math, just figuring out, is it worth the labor? And all the little complexities there. I have friends that travel 2 hours to a market. I have friends that travel over that. I have a friend that gets up at almost midnight and travels almost 4 hours or something to a market because they just make so much money at that market. I don't know. I mean, some of it's got to be quality of life too, right? Like we could, New York's only 12 hours away, right? I could drive up there if I wanted to and sell, I guess, but it'd be 24 hours of driving every week. I don't know. Even if I was making $20,000 per week or per sale, it would be a lot to justify. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. I think that's kind of, it's complicated, but I think just figuring out what you want, what the costs are, give yourself some labor costs so you have some number to look at. That's probably the place to start there. Yeah. No easy answer. All these are just decisions we all kind of have to make and figure out. Like, I think doing our sort of holistic goals, like figuring out what you want for your life, helps to make some of these decisions. We talked about sort of decision planning back in the fall and on Growers Daily in one of the episodes. So that could be, somewhere to look. All right. NG Slack writes, we are looking at overwintering a small number of Jersey cattle in our garden area this year. Any concerns that we should be thinking about compaction, sanitation? Compaction is going to be your primary issue. Sanitation, it just depends on if you're going immediately into like radishes or something in the spring, then yeah, maybe that would be an issue. But if you're going to go like plant tomatoes or something there, or like you're following the 90-120 day rule, you're getting them out before stuff is really growing or whatever, then you should be fine. I think your biggest issue is compaction, and that goes with anything that, anywhere that animals sit, whether it's a pasture, a garden, whatever. Like rotation is important. Duration of the amount of time they stand in one place is really important. Like if you have a large garden or a large farm and you can move them through there relatively quickly, then the benefits could be really high, especially if you have like a cover crop down, they come in, they graze it, you move them off, the cover crop regrows a little bit, they come in, they graze it, whatever. We used to do rotational grazing with cattle and sheep and stuff rotating through the garden, but we, not only because we were certified organic, but also just because of compaction and food safety, that we always moved them in that 90-120 day rule so that, so that crops that were, not touching the ground, those could be planted 120 days before, or they could go into ground that had manure on it, as long as they wouldn't be harvested 120 days before or since then. So like basically, if you had chickens on a plot, and you plant your tomatoes, you can't harvest those tomatoes for 90 days. I'm doing a terrible job of this. I've explained it like 10 times. So if you had like tomatoes, you plant them in a place that you had chickens, you have to wait 90 days to harvest those tomatoes and sell them. If you had lettuce, if you wanted to put lettuce in there, it has to be 120 days because the lettuce touches the soil. Does that make sense? So you're just trying to clear the amount of time from the manure to the harvest. And that's just that's a Food Safety Modernization Act rule, and that's also the organic certification rule. Hold on one second. All right, so Amy M. Levy asks, in central Kentucky, I've got a tiny backyard garden, but would really like to have some fruit trees, like fruit stone, peaches, or mulberries. Any recommendations that won't interfere with overhead power line? I would go lower then. I would probably not go so much like, too high. I mean, peaches you can keep fairly low. It depends on how high that power line is. Mulberries, maybe not. They can get pretty tall. I would maybe go more towards bushes too, like blueberries. You can actually get some nice, rabbit eye blueberries and stuff. They grow really well around here. Blackberries, black raspberries, that sort of stuff. Maybe focus more on those lower lying stuff. Pawpaws, they're not super huge. I'm not a huge pawpaw fan. I like one pawpaw a year, and then I'm like good. But they make there's some good things you can bake with them and stuff. So that's an option. And yeah, we have a tough time with fruit here. I would talk to, excuse me. I would talk to Blake down there at Peaceful Heritage and see what he thinks. Like figure out what your clearance is there, and then maybe just give Blake a call and see what he would recommend, because he may have more insight on some cool small fruits that you could use that are really really useful. And I know lots of people that love pawpaws, so I don't want to knock them. But yeah, I like going and getting one wild one every year, and then I'm like solid. Let's see. Jared James writes, what is your strategy to combat spider mites? What sprays do you prefer, or what predator insects do you introduce? I've never had spider mites. I really don't know a ton about them, Jared. So that's maybe one I'm going to have to just defer to the comments section there to help me with, because it's not one we've had, and honestly, my approach to all of these things is always the same. I think I talked about this recently. It's just like, in certain situations, it's exclusion. You need lots of flowers. You need lots of, good soil health, manage your compaction, manage your fertility. Compost makes a huge difference in crop productivity. Honestly, my approach to all insects is always the same. It's very boring. It's just, manage the ecology, manage the soil, plant at the right time, those sorts of things. So yeah, I know that's not super helpful, but, and then exclusion net if need be, that, not my favorite stuff, because it is a petroleum sort of plastic product, but if you can get it to last and if you can get the highest quality stuff, then you can get a lot of years out of it. Let's see. I'll maybe take a few more here. I know I've got quite a few. I'll take a few more, and then I think I'm gonna call it. It's almost an hour now. So thank you all for hanging in, and so many great questions. I'm loving this. So this is it's fun because I'm kind of rapid firing these, but I don't always get to talk about some of these subjects. They may not make like a full episode, but they definitely make like a full 5-minute rant. David Stewart writes, hey, Jesse, good morning, and hello from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. What's up out there in the triangle? Love your videos. Quick question. Do you know the soil analysis test with dirt, water, and a mason jar? Yeah, you're talking about the one that just kind of measures for soil aggregation. What do they call it? I forget. I just said that one the other day. What is it called? Yeah. There's a few different ways you can, measure your soil aggregation and that sort of stuff. Slate test. Is that what it's called? I think that's right. But yeah, you can look up, there's many ways you can do a basic soil analysis at your house in terms of your soil health and your soil aggregation. It tells you a lot. If you put a little, I use a sieve and I just dip that in water, and then you can shake it around. And if that, put some soil, just dig down to the rhizosphere, put that soil into a sieve, take that sieve and kind of shake it around in water. And if it gets super dirty, that means you really have to do some work on your soil health. If it doesn't, if it stays relatively clean, it drops some sediment or something, but it stays relatively clean, that's a good sign that you're doing things right with your soil. It's not just breaking apart and drifting into the water. It's staying together, and that's what you want to see. And I'm assuming that's what you were talking about, but maybe there's another one that I'm not thinking of. Jesse Turrets, what's up, Jesse? Jesse Turrets writes, hey, Jesse, social gardener here, or SoCal gardener here. We get these huge, dry, hot winds that come through. No matter how healthy and well-watered things are, plants just always air fry to some degree. Any thoughts on this? Yeah, I think, Jesse, you're over there in the West Coast, right? In Southern California. A lot of things that you'll see over there. You'll see a lot of windbreaks in really dry areas like that with blistering winds. Windbreaks are huge. So that could be something tall, but in a garden situation, it doesn't really have to be. It could be even an annual plant like a corn or I know they're kind of heavy, water feeders, but maybe it's something else, something that doesn't require as much water, but that just kind of breaks up that wind a little bit. That'll help. And yeah, I mean, that wind is honestly just like the hardest thing to deal with on any farm. And for a lot of reasons, it can dry out your vegetables, it can dry out your soil, it can throw your high tunnels at your neighbors' houses, and it can, tie your tarps and knots in your throw. We've had once where we had a row cover that just a dust devil came through, one of those little spinning dust devils, and it just picked it up and just shot it, I don't know, 100 yards in the air, and we just watched it spin in a giant snake-like circle. It was really wild to watch, and then it just disappeared over the hillside. So yeah, wind is a hoot, super fun. And yeah, I mean, that's it. I think windbreaks make a huge difference. Devin Mallow writes, checking in from Northeast Wisconsin, 5B. Tomatoes are booming this year, but the peppers are struggling. Any tips on boosting the peppers this late in the season? I wonder, maybe Devin can fill us in a little bit on what's happening with the peppers. But peppers are a little late to come on. They can be a little temperamental in terms of heat. So if you all are having, I don't know if you're having a cooler summer there, but they do like a little bit more heat. In terms of fertility, that can always be a thing. Water, maybe it's overwatered. I know that we've had a lot of rain here, so I don't know what you all are going through, but moisture makes a huge difference. Sometimes adding a little bit of compost and just some mulch right around them, just right kind of around the plants, can make a big difference. And if it's something like blossom end rot or something, yeah, maybe adding some compost. I like to mix in some really, really crushed up eggshells into like a mixture of compost, and then add that to the beds, like just kind of dig a furrow and add it in there. And that helps a lot for blossom end rot for us. But you really do have to crush those eggshells up really, really well. And then just the more surface area, the better for being able to release any amount of calcium. Yeah, I mean, that could be a place to start. Let's see. I'm going to take maybe one more, anybody that hasn't asked. Oh, okay. I'm going to take this one from Lamb's Quarters because this one is one that just came up. Lamb's Quarters Farm writes, and always a good commenter. Thanks you all. What is your favorite bird you've spotted on your farm? So this one is not going to sound that interesting, but we were just talking about this yesterday. Hannah and I were walking to the pack shed. It's separate times. We did this separately. And I was walking to the pack shed and I heard a bird I'd not heard before. And immediately, I was like, what in the world? So I got out my phone. I got out my Cornell Lab of Ornithology app. The what is it called, Mike? The Merlin app. And so I got out my Merlin app and I immediately looked it up, and it was a catbird, a gray catbird. Like, not the most exciting bird in the world, but we never had one here. So I ran into the wash pack where Hannah was washing lettuce, and I was like, Hannah, look at this. I saw this new bird. And she was like, I know, I just saw it. Like, I went through the same thing. We both freaked out about it. So that's how nerdy we are here. But yeah, it was just seeing, it's not like we get interesting birds that come through all the time. Like, we've had a lot more orioles, and we've seen, a lot more bluebirds and indigo buntings and stuff. Like, we get new birds and new amounts of birds every season, but it's just something about seeing a totally different species. Even when it's even if it was earlier this year was the cowbird. I hadn't seen a cowbird here, and I was like, oh, cowbird, cool. A new species. It doesn't even matter if it's exciting. So that was one. I think just seeing the catbird, the gray catbird, I was like, that is so cool. So yeah, I mean, that I know it's not some exotic bird, but that just seeing any new species is so fun. I think I want to just thank everybody for coming. We will see you tomorrow for a new episode. We'll do more of these. Let us know if you want us to do more of these. I don't know if this is, I'm just looking at the questions Mike's sending me. So he's the one monitoring the chat. So let Mike know if you all had a good time, and you enjoyed this. We will see you tomorrow for a normal episode, as normal as these episodes get, I guess. And Patreon shoutouts and the continuation of the story, all that good stuff. We'll do all that tomorrow. Don't forget, No Till Growers is now officially a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. Please make sure to like and subscribe and/or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at no-tillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music, Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing, and the help today. Shouts to Mike. And the team at No Till Growers. Also shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. You can't hear anything. Let's just pretend. Anyway, pick up a hat, one of these. Got the corduroy one somewhere. Or this. at no-tillgrowers.com, or a copy of the Living Soil Handbook. That is the book that I wrote about all of these things. That is a great way to support our work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/no-tillgrowers. We will see you all for those shout outs and the story tomorrow. Thanks again for coming. We'll see you then. Bye.